Where is the growth happening when advocates talk about revitalizing Jacksonville? Well, one of those places getting a makeover is in the Springfield area. Jacksonville City Councilman Jimmy Peluso joins us to talk about the progress underway. Plus, halfway through the school year, and educators say they still don't have the support they need. We're talking with the president of the Florida Education Association about the issue and ways to solve the problem on This Week in Jacksonville. Thanks for joining us. So glad you did. And while many of you are loyal watchers, I want to assure you we have a lot to talk about. And even if this first issue is going to seem very familiar, while a Confederate monument now gone from Springfield Park, the debate on whether that should have happened, it's ongoing, and how it happened. So Mayor Donna Deegan's been on our show recently. She talked about with the use of private funds. She ordered the statue removed at the end of last month. Since then, debate has continued, questioning whether she had the authority to do it. Mayor Deegan has said, after speaking with the city's top lawyer, that she did have the power to make that move. That attorney, Michael Fackler, once again spoke to City Council about the decision and has presented his officially signed finding on that matter. Last week, City Council President Ron Salem was on our show. He says he believes the decision concerning private funding needs to be reviewed. He has introduced legislation that would keep this from happening again in Jacksonville. Another special meeting going to be held this coming week. And so District 7 City Council member Jimmy Peluso is with us today. Councilman and I spoke about this right when the monument came down. We said we need to have you on, and you deferred to, hey, if the mayor wants to speak, let her. And last week with the City Council president, you said that's appropriate, but I wanted to maybe give you a chance to weigh in. This is in your district. Yep. It's an issue that I'd just like to hear your perspective on.
Excellent, and thank you, Ken, for having me on. And I'm more than happy that we had both the mayor and the council president on here. And I'm glad that we're starting the show talking about this. But let me follow up with, I hope we never talk about this ever again. Like, we should be done talking about Confederate monuments in this city. The work that was done was done. The mayor was correct in doing it. She received more votes than anyone else who's sitting on that dais. The voters knew that she wanted to get rid of this monument. The voters knew I wanted to get rid of this monument. And she did exactly what she had the authority and right to do, as written down by our general counsel, who was unanimously approved by our city council and has been an attorney for 22 years. So he knows what he's talking about. And frankly, I feel like what some of my colleagues up at city council are doing right now is just making hay of an issue and a little bit of fake outrage. We're done with this issue and we should stop.
So definitely wanted to start with that topic, but there's some other things that are exciting that are happening. This week we've been covering the Phoenix Arts and Innovation District. So they filed a master plan with the city, and the next step trying to revive the North Springfield area. Let me show you some of these images. We got renderings of the district. It's going to sit on Liberty Street in the Phoenix neighborhood. The master plan outlines a system of walkways and sidewalks. They connect to the Emerald Trail along with an expansion of transit opportunities. So work has already begun on the Emerald Station. And the Liberty Building, that's expected to break ground later this year. And as you may know, the Springfield neighborhood, one of the oldest in Jacksonville. Councilman, this was, I knew it was one of the oldest, but then I read established in 1869. So this is unique, it's historic. What does this project mean for Springfield?
Well, I mean, it means a lot for the city in general, right? We want to attract young talent. We need areas like this. And frankly, what Tony Cho has done down in the Wynwood area in Miami, he's trying to bring up here as well. One of the things we hope to do, though, is make sure that it remains affordable in the years to come. There's going to be a whole slew of options for people to live in. There's even going to be senior living. There's going to be affordable. There's going to be market rate. And we're going to make sure that there's a grocer there as well, which is great because that feeds a need that we have in the city because we have so many food deserts. I mean, I'm just so excited for this. I mean, it's going to be a great engine of growth, not only directly north of our downtown, so it's going to support our downtown, but yeah, it's going to bring, I think, more artists and more critical thinkers to our city than maybe we had before.
When people talk about redeveloping or revitalizing certain areas, I mean, I've seen this. I've been in town almost 15 years, and I've certainly seen some changes there along Main Street and where Springfield is. To say, hey, let's embrace the history here, the culture that's here. It seems like an exciting time.
So it's an incredibly exciting time. I mean, I lived away from Jacksonville because I served the United States Navy for several years. So from 09 to 15, I was living in different cities across the country. I saw what a lot of those cities did. And the moment I resigned my commission and came got out of the military, I wanted to come back home, to be a part of this youth movement, to be a part of this resurgence of what Jacksonville has, because we have better bones than any other city that I've lived in. And to be able to be the council member for the district that I have, and for this area, and for our downtown, and for Riverside, Avondale, and so many other places, it's just exciting for me, and I'm so happy that we're at this place.
No, Councilman, I'm reading about that. A lot of other interesting things in and to do in Springfield. The annual Porch Fest, Springfield Tour of Homes, and it sounds like this Phoenix Art District is really going to have a positive economic impact, both East Side, North Springfield neighborhoods.
Yep, very much so. Yeah, because it's right there kind of in between some really awesome neighborhoods. We have historic East Side, which, by the way, right now has been designated, or A. Philip Randolph, the main road that goes through much of the East Side, has been designated one of the Florida Main Street roads. That was just announced yesterday. It's huge. So I was just with the East Side Legacy Business Council, as well as Lift Jacks, and we were talking about that. It's going to be amazing for the East Side area. The fact that you've got Phoenix so close and adjacent to them is only going to draw more growth into the area. And obviously, for those that are in Springfield, now you're going to have a grocer nearby. You're going to have a cool young place to go. You've got so many single-family homes right there in historic Springfield, and now you're going to have these mixed-use developments right there. So it's all going to complement each other incredibly well. And all of this is right north of downtown, so it's all going to feed each other.
How does this lean into, you said, hey, I want to talk about commercial corridors, and you got some ideas there.
So yeah, and I'm incredibly happy that you brought that up. So I got together with some other council members to discuss what I hope to be a future commercial corridor plan. We have so many old corridors in our city. In my district alone, I have A. Philip Randolph, I've got Edgewood, I've got Maine, I've got Myrtle and Kings. And so some of these areas have really kind of been left behind. Like many parts of our city, so many areas, so many of our older neighborhoods have been left behind, yet they have these great corridors that have either vacant properties or vacant land. Right, so I'm hoping to use some of the money from the Northwest Trust Fund to be able to revitalize those commercial corridors, to help provide micro grants for both business owners, new and existing, as well as property owners that may want to fix up their property. I mean, there's no better way to show some of these older parts of our neighborhood that they are not forgotten than to finally give them the opportunity and the economic freedom to kind of come back from where they were before.
Yeah. And which one of those comes first? A push by city council or a program there, or these business owners or the people who live in those neighborhoods to say, hey, we want to take it forward?
Well, we're going to give them the tools, right? So the trust already exists. The fund already exists. What we're going to do is create a new program that allows for more capital to be available, right? So many banks aren't going to do a $50,000 loan or a $100,000 loan. But while we have these funds, which are meant to be put towards economic development, let's finally start putting it towards economic development. So many of these areas have high crime or low-income residencies nearby. There's no better way to bring back a neighborhood than to get the corridors to becoming what they used to be, which is a place of commerce and again, freedom. And that's what we want. That's what we want to see in our city.
Oh, that's a good word to add to what we want in our city. And there's much more to talk about with Councilman Peluso, so stay with us. And we're going to talk about downtown and what Forbes has to say about the River City. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
Jacksonville City Councilman Jimmy Peluso with us today. Councilman, you pointed this out to me, that there's another push at the state level that would basically cap how much JEA contributes to the city. This is tens of millions of dollars that are on the line here. What do you feel? How do you feel about that? And what is really the motivation for this?
I think the way a lot of people in this city should feel, which is livid. Right? That is a publicly owned utility, locally owned here in the city of Jacksonville. That's our utility. Those are our dollars. I've spoken now with a number of other senators, state representatives, and luckily it seems our local delegation seems to be more on our side, but we need to make sure that we're making that loud and clear. We need people in Tallahassee to fight back against this. This is upwards of $60 to $75 million that will not be brought to the city of Jacksonville if this bill were to proceed. This is Tallahassee bureaucrats coming down and trying to stamp out home rule once again. And this is the kind of stuff that I really cannot stand, because here we have supposed limited government leadership up in Tallahassee, and here they want to use state government to trample on our rights. It's unacceptable.
Yeah, how often, especially in the last few years, pandemic, where we heard at the state level, hey, federal government, don't take away my authority and power. And it seems like that's what's happening on that state to the municipal level here.
The hypocrisy is out of control. And I mean, it's what happens when you have one-party rule for so long up in Tallahassee. They find things to get upset about. So rather than fix our property insurance problem, rather than fix our housing crisis, rather than do something like, I don't know, increase how much we can have as a homestead exemption, they instead go towards, let's find ways to embed ourselves in between local government and their constituents. It's stupid, and hopefully it dies very quickly.
We're not there yet, but obviously in the last 5 years, we saw what seemed to be an effort to sell JEA. There are those who think that this bill at the state level is designed to maybe give an in to other corporations, private entities, to try and take JEA or buy JEA at some point in the future.
No, I mean, and it makes perfect sense, right? By making it less palatable for our city to continue to have JEA as an independent authority that no longer gives us money, now people might start saying, oh, well, if we privatize it, that way we can, get this windfall of cash. Of course, the moment it gets privatized, we're definitely going to see rates come up. It's basically a tax increase that we're putting on our people if we ever do that. No, what we need to do is kill this awful bill, tell folks in Tallahassee to stay out of Jacksonville, stay out of our authority, and just remind folks to get upset about this. I mean, JEA is ours. We've said that a numerous amount of times now, and we should continue to make that loud and clear.
So let's talk about this. I know this weekend, cold weather, that was in our forecast. Well, how about this? Forbes has a bit of a forecast for Northeast Florida, calling Jacksonville a future boom town. Why? And what does a designation like that mean to a city like Jacksonville?
Well, Frank, I mean, that's a reputable public, publication
yeah.
That's huge, right? I mean, I know tons of folks. My father worked in the financial sector for years. We always had a Forbes magazine lying around. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that gets buzz, right? And this city should have a ton of buzz. We have the Gateway project coming in the Pearl area. That's going to be huge. We just talked about the Phoenix Art District. That's a little bit outside of the downtown, but it's very, very close. We have a lot of cool projects coming online. We're still now debating what's going on with the Laura Street Trio, but that could be a huge catalyst for development in our city as well. We've got all these parks that we're working on. We've got Mosh coming on the other side, from the South Bank to the North Bank. What we have going forward are the types of building blocks necessary to really make us that top-tier city that we all know we belong to be. There's no other place like Jacksonville. There really isn't. I mean, the river cutting right through it, the fact that we have two massive interstates going through, two massive railroads going through, a port. I mean, and the weather is incredible. And as we all know—
All of those are true, yes.
Yeah, right? And it's January, and some days we get to walk outside in shorts. I mean, Jacksonville has everything you want, and our downtown has the bones it needs to be a top-tier city.
It sounds like you're referencing that, but it seems like the city could leverage, because of Forbes' reputation, that Forbes notion, hey, Jacksonville's a place to watch, and they've got things moving.
Yeah, no question.
I want you to tell me a little bit more of your view of downtown. You just referenced, we talked about Springfield, but you just referenced Laura Street Trio. On our podcast this week that just came out Thursday, we're talking with the developer there, Steve Atkins, City Councilman Matt Carlucci, about Laura Street Trio. There are a lot of people who say, yes, I want to see this develop, but it's a slow process for whatever reason there. Yeah,
I mean, there is good reason, right? The bill that was kind of brought up last week was definitely slightly half-baked. So what the developer was bringing forward to us, I think some of the media billed it as, it's only a couple $1 million that the city's going to be, handing over to a developer that's got a reputation with the Barnett. We did a great job there, amazing historic preservation. But in the end, the deal that was brought before us really put the city of Jacksonville's taxpayers on the hook for a very long-term commitment that we just weren't prepared to do. So we're going to do a more conventional style of incentives to give to the developer, and we're going to make sure this project does get done. The historic preservation alone is a reason why the city needs to be embedded and involved in this. Adaptive reuse is a tough business. It's really hard to go into a 15-story building. Yep, it's incredibly expensive, but the benefit is out of control. As someone who used to be a young person, I know when I would go to Charleston or Savannah or whatever else, and you go to these older buildings that have been completely renovated. I mean, it's awesome. It's a great experience, and we want to have that here in our own city, and we deserve it. So I'm eager to see that kind of move forward. To the point I made about all the other cool projects going on downtown, we're putting in the building blocks to make sure that everything kind of connects together all at once. I really trust what Lori Boyer is doing at JEA, and I really trust what the mayor's doing. She wanted to put more infrastructure dollars into our downtown, and we're doing that. She also wanted to make sure parks was a major priority, especially right there on the river. Parks for any and all to go to. That's a great way to help make sure that you're really getting a lot of families and kind of concert goers, stuff like that. Once they kind of walk into your downtown and look around, they say, oh, maybe I'll look at getting a place here.
Right.
And that's how that starts, and we're doing that.
Yeah. City Councilman Jimmy Peluso, appreciate it. We've gotten to visit a few times here, and you've always got a lot of energy and a lot to share. So thank you for that.
My
and
pleasure.
Thank you for the time today.
No, thank you, Ken.
All right.
Have a good day.
So stay with us. We're turning to education when we come back. FEA President Andrew Spar is joining us from the capital city. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
You're watching This Week in Jacksonville on Channel 4.
New teacher vacancy numbers show that halfway through the school year, there are still 4,096 advertised instructional vacancies in Florida schools, 3,457 support staff vacancies. So that's a total 7,553 vacancies across the K through 12 system. Is that a crisis? Joining us from his headquarters in Tallahassee, Andrew Spar, president of the Florida Education Association, FEA. Andrew is who provided those numbers. You released these numbers this week, and I'm sure it's frustrating to you. Is it surprising at all?
Unfortunately, it's not surprising because I'm out in the school districts all over the state. I was in Jacksonville and in Duval County schools back in December, as a matter of fact. And what I hear from colleagues of mine all over the state, from teachers and staff who work in our schools, who give so much of themselves to really make sure that every child gets the education they deserve and need, is that they're thinking about leaving, or they are leaving, or they know a colleague who just walked out the door. We see teachers going to other states or getting out of the profession altogether because pay is too low and because of all of these laws and rules and micromanaging from Tallahassee that interferes with the ability that we need to do our jobs effectively.
Yeah, the shortage is listed there. So include classroom aides, English language learner, ESC paraprofessionals, bus drivers, I'm reading here too. And I've got a friend who is in one of our local districts here in Northeast Florida who's in transportation. He says there is always a need for more drivers. So does all of this extend to those other staff positions as well? We're into talking about vacancies and shortages?
Yeah, absolutely. It is bus drivers. It is paraprofessionals. It's the people who work in the front office, the cafeteria workers, the custodians, as well as teachers and school psychologists, school social workers. It's just everywhere right now. And, at one point in time, we were looking at teacher vacancies around 1,000, 2,000. But to hear that there's over 4,000 teacher vacancies, another 3,500 support staff vacancies in our schools in the middle of the year means kids aren't getting what they deserve and need. My youngest daughter is in 9th grade down in Volusia County. And in 9th grade, at the beginning of this school year, she didn't have an English teacher for the first 9 weeks of the school year. And this is the 3rd year in a row that she hasn't had the full complement of teachers her entire school year. And unfortunately, that's not abnormal right now.
Yeah, let's drill down on that a little bit, because as I'm reading some of the information from FEA, because of the ongoing shortages, year over year, there's been an increase in the amount of core courses like English, reading, science, math that are all being taught by teachers who aren't certified in that field. And that's up 7%, as I understand, up from 55,000 to 59,000. Where do we go from that? How do we make sure that we solve that problem?
Well, I think it's pretty simple. And look, voters get it, right? We just did a poll that showed that voters want teachers and staff to be paid better. They want more of an investment in our public schools. They want more advanced placement classes, more career tech and classes. They want more music, art, and physical education classes. They want a strong, powerful public education system in the state of Florida. And for some reasons, lawmakers don't act on it. We see some bills moving through the legislature this year, especially especially in the Senate, that talk about addressing some of these needs, but they don't go far enough. And that's what we continue to push for. We need lawmakers to understand that the decisions they make have a direct impact on our kids. And Florida ranks 43rd in the nation in funding for our schools, and we're one of the wealthiest states in the nation. Public education is not only the foundation of our democracy, it is the vital lifeline of every community.
Well, let me just bring up the other side. Governor DeSantis has talked about investing in education, and hasn't the state legislature increased teacher pay over these last several years?
So when Governor DeSantis took office, the average teacher pay in Florida ranked 47th in the nation. Average teacher pay now ranks 48th in the nation. What Governor DeSantis did is he kind of shifted money around, put more money to beginning teacher pay while sacrificing that of experienced teachers. So for example, a teacher in some districts that may be working 15 or 20 years are making the same amount of money as someone just starting out in the profession. Then you have other situations where teachers who've been teaching for 25 or 30 years are making less than teachers with that exact same experience were making 10, 15 years ago. And that's not accounting for inflation. And so that's why you're seeing teachers leaving the profession in droves in numbers like we've never seen before, because why would you stay if you are being so underpaid and undervalued, and then you continue to see others getting pay raises while you're not?
Yeah, obviously education, really important. And Andrew Spar, president at Florida Education Association, I appreciate your time today. All right, so coming up, Chris Hand is an expert in local, state, and federal government. He's back next time for our monthly episode of Hand on Government. This Week in Jacksonville, airing each Sunday morning at this time. I'm Kent Justice. So thank you so much for watching on air on Channel 4 and the CW17. Of course, you can find us online. And a reminder about the latest episode of This Week in Jacksonville, Business Edition. It's our podcast, and we focus on economic development in the River City and our region. This week's episode looks to get details from developer Steve Atkins and City Councilman Matt Carlucci on the delays and holdups and in their hopes for the possibilities of the Laura Street Trio. You can find new episodes every Thursday at 9 a.m. You'll find it right now on News4Jax Plus under the channel This Week in Jacksonville.
See why every day more people are choosing News4Jax, Northeast Florida and South Georgia's #1 source for local news.